would say like, hey, let's have a drink later. And I'm like, I'm here to give you information. And there was an engineer next to me, and they would ask him about the technical stuff instead of me. And I was like, I'm completely capable of giving you the same explanation that my colleague is giving you. We have been educated, or we have been told as women that we shouldn't stand out, or that we shouldn't be, if you become assertive,
Yeah.
you are not, you are bossy.
Today we'll be chatting with Karime Esper. I hope I said that right. I think I did. So Karime is currently an associate partner manager working in the Google hardware business. She's actually from Mexico and she immigrated to the United States 4 years ago. She worked in VMware previously, one of the top IT infrastructure companies for those who don't know. And Karime, just like us, is a huge women empowerment advocate and is part of the Girls in Tech Committee, which is a nonprofit organization that is focused on empowering women in technology. So, Karime, thank you very much for being here. I'm so excited to have you. As I said previously, like we're kind of partners. We believe in the same things. We do almost the same things, and so I'm really excited to have you share your story. So we typically start with like just your early career journey. Like, how did you start? Like, what did you study? How did you end up where you are now? Could you just walk us through, maybe sharing a bit of your early stories?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I love these spaces where we can share real women's stories to empower and um, to make other women see that there's a chance to make it in technology. So I think what you guys are doing is amazing, and happy to be part of it. So I started. You already mentioned it. I'm from Mexico City, and I studied entrepreneurship. Like literally, my undergrad is called Creation and Development of Businesses. And it's funny because during my career, like literally, my final project was to create a company. So I would say during my, I don't know, like fifth semester until the end of my bachelor's, I developed a company, and it was a small startup that was called Beauty to Go. I had a partner, and it was beauty services for women under houses. The idea started as a beauty truck. Imagine these trucks where they come to your house and do your dogs.
Yeah.
That, but for women, right?
Okay.
At that point, we validated the idea, and it was a big investment for us to make the whole truck. So we just ended up doing a business where we would bring beauty services for women. And the idea behind it is it was to empower women to feel more beautiful. And it was not just like a beauty service. We would make like a whole party, and kind of like in Mexico, it's very common to like before, I don't know, like graduation parties, before weddings, you get ready with with your cousins, with your friends. So we were like, okay, let's make this moment something empowering. So we would bring music, we would bring uh,
That's awesome.
relaxing activities, etc. So that's kind of like where my professional career started. Um, we had the business for around 2 years, like from when we started developing it in college until like 6 months later. And during that time, I was like, you know what? I don't like this industry as much. The beauty industry, to some extent, is also it's hard for women. You know, like there's so many standards that women have, or we try to imitate in terms of body image, in terms of how we look. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something more meaningful. My background is my family has always been in technology. My both my mother and my father have distributor technology distribution businesses in Mexico. So my mother distributed, for example, VMware, more like security products, and my father hardware. He was a big distributor of Dell in the government of Mexico. So my whole life I grew up hearing and speaking technology. So following those steps, that's when I was like, okay, I'll give technology a chance. So that's when I applied for VMware. And at VMware, I started as an intern, as a partner manager. So I would support all the partnerships team. And for you that, I mean, you guys are probably very familiar, but for the people that are not familiar, like big companies like Microsoft, like VMware, like Google, they have software products or hardware products, and they have smaller companies, partners that distribute their products to end users. So I was in charge of managing that. So I think that's how I started in technology. It was, to be honest, like following my family.
Awesome. I love that. And, I was surprised when you said that, the beauty industry is kind of tough on women. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on, like, when you say tough on women, how would you compare that to women working in tech? Like, is it different, or do they face the same challenges? What's your take on that?
I would say overall, it's the same challenges, in the sense that the beauty industry tells us that we have to look a specific way. We have to act a specific way. If you don't, let's say, if you don't dress this way, you're not gonna be taken seriously. And it happens a lot in the tech industry. I have let's say, two sides of the story of the tech industry, because I started my career in Mexico, right? You guys know, well, I don't know if you know, but Mexico, it's a very sexist country. We have a lot of a macho culture in Mexico. So I literally went in, like, I went directly into that, where I was, for example, I was expected to wear dresses every time. I remember, and for me right now, it's funny because I don't do this in Silicon Valley. I was wearing high heels in everything from Monday to Friday, high heels and a dress and a blazer, And here in Silicon Valley, I don't. I wear tennis shoes all day. I wear jeans. It's completely different, and it's still the tech industry. So I would say, in that sense, it's very similar. It depends where you are. No, in Mexico, it's very typical. Like my mom is also in the tech industry, so you see her working and she's always with a dress, right? And right now it's very funny because she sees me, sometimes she visits me in San Francisco, and she's like, why are you wearing that? And I'm like, Mom, this is how we dress here.
That's okay.
It's a cultural
So
thing,
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it resonates a lot with me. I see my friends in different industries, and they are obliged to wear dresses and high heels and these kind of things. And I'm working in tech, and we don't really face customers face to face much. So I would typically wear something close to sweatpants, to jeans, to work most of the time. And my hair is normally up in a bun or something. So yeah, I think it's much better. So you talked about how you started advocating for women later. I want to ask, what made you want to advocate for girls in tech? Like, what happened around you that made you want to start becoming an advocate? I'm curious.
Yeah, so funny. Well, my mom, she's a big woman in tech here in Mexico, right? So she started it was not software engineer, but it was kind of like something similar. She every time she tells her story, she was like, she was writing code literally with a pen.
Oh wow.
So she was like the Latin American director for a company called SCO, Santa Cruz Operations. Back in the days, this was one of the biggest operating systems that was there. So first of all, I watched my mom growing in the tech industry, right? And I would listen a lot of her stories and about how she would get like, like not she wouldn't get a lot of sexism, but she had to kind of like create her own rules to get to where she was. So at the beginning, I heard that story. And I was like, well, that's weird, because when I was growing up, I didn't really experience anything of that. I believe I grew up in a privileged situation, right? I went to private school, I went to private college in Mexico, which is it's very privileged, right? So I didn't experience that, but at the moment that I started working at VMware, I started facing it. It was insane how, because of my age, that was one thing. I think the youngest person in the office, right? So I was a woman, I was young, and people wouldn't listen to me in the meetings. Like they would turn to my boss, and I was like, hey, my work has, like, I'm doing a correct work. Like, why are people not listening to me? That's one. Another thing that happened a lot to me during when I started working in tech, I was going to events, and guys would approach me and they would like ask me about myself and my body instead of asking me about the event. You know, these road shows that we attend. We were sponsors in events, and people would like guys would approach me, and they would say like, "Hey, let's have a drink later." And I'm like, "I'm here to give you information." And there was an engineer next to me, and they would ask him about the technical stuff instead of me. And I was like, "I'm completely capable of giving you the same explanation that my colleague is giving you." So I was like, "This cannot be happening." And my advocacy actually started here. It started in Mexico. I joined a small women in tech, one of the first women in tech organizations for Latin women, and I started making events. So I joined as the leader of Mexico City. It was very similar, and I started creating events. So it was like kind of like meetups every month. I would invite, same as you, I would invite women that were in tech to tell their stories, and we would invite women, and then we would also create coding classes for kids, for girls, right? Because there's different stages of women empowerment, right? And we were like, okay, if we start when the kids, like when letting know that the girls can do things since they are kids, this can help them. So we built a program where we were helping women in different stages of their professional development. So that's when I really started getting into the women empowerment, specifically in tech. But it was specifically because I lived it.
Yeah, that's really, really, really powerful. And you know, especially when you say that you know, you grew up obviously with your mom who was in tech, and you not only experienced that, but you also saw your mom experience that.
Exactly.
So that's pretty powerful. But do you think things are getting better in Mexico? I mean, is it really something specific to a country, or is it specific to an industry? What's your view on that? Like, is this first of all a problem that's getting better, and second of all, is this specific to a certain industry or specific to a certain country? What's your opinion on that, based on your experience?
I think it is a lot of the culture of Mexico, because as I mentioned at the beginning, in Mexico there's a big like macho culture, right? It's a sexist culture by default. Yeah. I would say in Mexico it is getting better. I feel that all these movements of feminism, I don't know if you know much about, but there has been a lot of, like, for example, in March 8th, which is International Women's Day, there's amazing, huge protests in Mexico. I encourage you to Google them because they are insane. So I think all this awareness is helping. There's a lot of things, a lot of work to do still. But now, so obviously I've told you my story in Mexico, right? After that, I did a master's in San Francisco, and that's when I stayed in San Francisco. So now that I am in San Francisco, it's super interesting to see, because it's a different problematic. It's completely different, because in Mexico you are not, you're more challenged by the problems are different, right? In Mexico we are not fighting yet for the salary differences, for example. In San Francisco they are. Like, I feel that, for example, all the harassment, it happens, it still happens, but it's happening way less than how I have experienced it in Mexico, right? In terms of the tech industry, the not the situation is that it's dominated by men. So I am reading a book that I really recommend. It's called Invisible Women. It's a book that it's not related specifically to tech, but it's related to how the world is created by default for men. Not necessarily in a sexist way or in a way that they do it like we do it in purpose, but specifically because the people in power are men. So therefore, we like, since men are the ones creating the processes, the systems, everything is gonna be by default for men. So I think that's what's happening in the tech. That's what happens in the tech industry. Back in the days, tech careers, being an engineer, it even happened to me. Like being an engineer, it was a man's profession. So, for example, my house, both my parents work in technology, I was encouraged to study business. My brother was encouraged. My brother is a software engineer. Why wasn't I encouraged also to be a software engineer, right? Even though my mom worked in technology, and she was facing everything. So I think that's the problem with the tech industry right now. Again, I feel that in Silicon Valley, and in Silicon Valley specifically, because I feel the US is completely different, but in Silicon Valley, there's a small advantage, right? There's a lot of programs taking place. There's like a lot of organizations like Girls in Tech, the one that I am part of. There's Latinas in Tech. There's women who code. There's Black women who code. Like there's a lot more of organizations and people that are interested in like breaking this gender gap, right? So I would say industry, yes, it's a big thing because of this, right? Because of what,
like the power.
Exactly, the percentages of men versus women in technical roles. And even if you see now, like I am a partner manager, I am not directly involved with the technology. I don't code, I don't create the products in technology. The women that are creating the products, the percentage is even lower. So that's my point. We have to encourage the kids since they are in a young age that women are capable, like girls are capable to go into these technical roles.
Yeah, I mean, we can totally relate. By the way, when you talk about these, sexism and all that stuff, like we can totally relate, especially in our region. To be honest, I'm sure a lot of people are going to agree with that. So we kind of feel the pain here, and I agree that like because, as you said, like the powerful people who created the technologies, were usually men. So that's why it turned out that more men are in tech. But I want to circle back when you said that people sometimes don't take you seriously because you are a woman. Could you tell us more about that? And most importantly, like for a woman, how would she overcome something like that if she's in a technical role? I mean, how could she overcome something like not being taken seriously, which is a very serious topic?
I think there's two sides of that. The first side is not being taken seriously by the person, right? Either a man or a woman, because it happens in both ways. That part, I'll go back to that part. The second side is a woman, like personally, we have been educated, or we have been told as women that we shouldn't stand out, or that we shouldn't be, if you become assertive, you are not, you're bossy. For example, if I speak up, you're bossy. If you say no to someone, you're being a bitch, right? So that's it's two sides. From one side is you as a woman need to find a way to stop kind of like judging yourself first, right? So how to do that? It's speaking up, like joining forums like this, like speaking, like we don't know how to speak, like it's hard for women to, like sometimes it's like I don't know, Silicon Valley. No, it's no, but I'm giving the spaces to women. No, but women are not coming. Yes, women are not coming because we feel we're not capable of it. It's insecurity that we have from, like, we have carrying in our, in our backpacks since we were born, because society has told us that you shouldn't speak up, that you shouldn't be assertive, that you shouldn't. So there's an organization, Lean In. It's the organization from Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook. There's a lot of resources there. Like, I think that organization has done a great job on how to equip women to exactly to lean in, no, to be more assertive, to don't be afraid of speaking up. How I have done it personally is to get exposed, even if I'm scared. I, especially as an immigrant in the US, I have so many taboos on my head that again, they are taboos. They are not necessarily what's happening. For me, it's like, fuck, like, I'm gonna go to an event. For example, I go to an event and I try to, for example, it's small things. I think that's the key thing. Like, go little by little, small steps, baby steps. I go to events and I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna ask a question, and I'm so scared. I'm like, yes, I put my hand up and I ask a question. Doesn't matter what question, doesn't matter if it's just saying thank you for your time. Like, do stuff that's gonna take you to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And then it's a process. We all fear, we all have something that's stopping us. So I think that's the first step. And the other side, I'm coming back to the part where somebody else stops you. It's a speak up. So for example, this happened. So after I graduated from my master's, I was working for a Latin American company, but I was working in San Francisco, and I was a partner manager for Google, for Salesforce, for Facebook, and some other partners, right? There was this party where one, I'm not gonna say the company, but one of this company's employees started like really like flirting with me, and he was like, we were on a it was a networking event for the company, but he started getting like super close with me, and I was not comfortable with it. I'm like, this guy, like, it's not like I gave him a yes. That's another thing that happens a lot. Like, many men assume that just because a woman smiles, they are giving them the permission to do whatever they want, right? So I am like this. I love to smile. I'm very caring with people. That's my job. I'm a partner manager. I'm supposed to be social. I'm supposed to be empathetic. And a lot of men, unfortunately, they confuse that with like, hey, I want something with you. And this guy did. So I was like, okay, what should I do? So I spoke with my manager, and my manager took action. So like, it's really finding these allies, women, men, finding, even if they are not high in power, find someone that supports you, and just like either go with this person and like speak about it personally, directly, or find someone else that's going to speak with this person. Right. Sometimes it's hard to find allies. People are scared of their professional career. It's like, I don't want to do this because I don't know what's going to happen with my job, but there's always someone that's going to be willing to do the effort. So just don't give up. And I think don't like speak up, like don't shut up, because this is not going to help you or even help others.
I think this is a very, very big problem for women, speaking up, because I don't think I've ever met a woman in my life that's never been harassed by a colleague or a person in a working place. If the levels of harassment vary, but it's always happening in this industry and in other industries, and we're always having this imposter syndrome where you're like, but am I as good as him at work? Maybe if I'm a threat to him, then they will let me go and keep him. A lot of times they are in positions of power, that where they are higher in hierarchy than you are, and you're scared to tell your manager, or he is your manager. So yeah, many times it's a very big problem, and we need much more empowerment.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it. Like this harassment thing, like as Karima was saying, like when you're being very friendly with people, like they take it as like you want something with them. This is really bad. I mean, obviously men don't face this as much. Like when we are friendly, we're not obviously harassed, or not as much. But yeah, this is something very serious. I mean, the problem is that not a lot of people realize that. Maybe things are good in San Francisco, but not in other areas. So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And also, you said something about girls or women being in tech that usually have roles that are not very technical. And I think you also touched on the fact that when the technology industry started, all the engineers were actually men, and thus more men were encouraged to get into the technical aspect, and the girls' roles in big tech or in tech industry generally are less technical.
mm,
Um, what do you think we can do as girls who are in technical jobs? Like in my day-to-day life, I'm quite busy, and many people that work in big tech companies and have technical jobs, they're quite busy, and but we want, I want my younger sister, for example, to go and do like um a job. So what are you doing like in Girls in Tech or in other initiatives for younger girls to not only join technology companies, but to take on technical roles? Be a software developer, for example, like you said earlier about you and your brother.
yeah, I think, for example, I first of all, I think it's show because like break the taboo of what technology is. A lot of people think that technology is so hard. Like we have this taboo. Like when we're growing up, when we're kids, like, oh yes, math is horrible. Physics is horrible. It's so hard. La la la. And we um, put kids into boxes. Like you're not good in math. So like I think the first thing to do is to break this, and how I've done it in my experience with younger people is break that taboo. Like, hey, show that technology is fun. With technology, you can create whatever you want. Like we have my friend, which is one of the friends that I made when I was in Mexico with this women empowerment thing. She created kind of like a small school. It's a program called Code Party. So what we would do in those code parties, we would create a party, like a birthday party for kids, and give them candy and make activities and create something. And one of the questions before we break into computers was like, what would you create with technology? Anything that you, and that was amazing to see what kids would say. They would say, I want to create a robot that's gonna do my homework, no, something like this. Or I would create a robot that helps me clean the poop of my dog, like stuff like this. So you help them dream. I studied business, and I saw the power of technology, and I was like, okay, there's so many boot camps out there. I took a coding class, right? And I learned how to wrote CSS, HTML5. I created a website, and I was like, wow, this I have the technology in my hands, right? I know a lot of people that never studied software engineering, and they just learn on YouTube, and boom, they became software engineers like this. It's crazy. So there's free tools. There's amazing people that mentors everything. So I think it's a matter of showing what you can achieve with it.
It's honestly awesome. We have very good role models like you and other women in tech that can show, that you can continuously learn in this industry. You don't need your bachelor's degree. You don't need
Exactly.
anything, honestly. You just need to get on the internet, which you do since you're like 4 years old, and it shouldn't be that hard. So maybe we can just redirect the
The
kids'
energy.
focus
Yeah.
into maybe, at least girls to do the gaming like the boys do, and that will spark their interest. But yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, yeah, and especially like as you said, it's not as hard as people think. Like even if it's hard, like obviously women can do it. There's literally no difference. So again, it's just the idea that because math is hard, let's just put boys in it, which is horrible.
Which is
But
horrible, yeah.
yeah. Karime, if you could tell us more about Girls in Tech, like what do you girls exactly do? What are some of the programs you have done? I know you've recorded some podcasts just like us, but could you just tell us more about it just for our audience?
Sure. So Girls in Tech in general is a global organization where we create programs, different programs, to help women in different stages of their professional careers to get to the next level, wherever they want to be. Doesn't matter if they are beginners, doesn't matter if they are experts. We have different programs that help women. And even though it's called Girls in Tech, it's targeted more towards teenagers up. It's women that are more into in their professional journeys, either students that want to start a professional career, or people like us with 3-4 years of experience that want to go to their next role, or they want to transition into a different role, or maybe get into a management position, etc. So that's, let's say, the global organization specifically, and then the global organization has different chapters around the world. I am specifically in the San Francisco chapter, and in the each local chapter is specifically to help the local communities. So in my case, I'm in the San Francisco chapter, and we have also different programs. So for example, we have a hackathon every year where we help nonprofit organizations to solve a problem. So what we do with this with this type of projects is encourage women to come and learn a new skill. A hackathon is always about solving problems. The fact that we're doing it for nonprofits, it's also like, hey, you're helping someone from your community, and you can learn something. So we have had girls that they don't know nothing, like anything about coding, and they come and they at least learn a little bit and contribute a little bit to the solution of the problem. We have designers, we have business people. So the idea is to solve problems so that you can contribute something to the community. We also have technical events where we bring an expert from one of the top companies that we have around us in San Francisco or Silicon Valley, and teach them, like Python classes or data classes or SQL classes, or like more targeted towards specific hard skills that we need, women need to maybe take to the next level, or they want to become programmers, or they want to take a new role, etc. So it's really, we really make an analysis on what skills is the market asking, so that we can offer these skills to our community so that they can take their professional level to the next level. And then we also have non-technical skills, because as we mentioned before, it's not only about the tangible or the technical skills that we have, but also the non-technical. So for example, last year we had how to tackle the imposter syndrome. So we hired a coach, and we had a workshop on how to tackle the imposter syndrome that everybody has, right? And the idea of this is to give very specific tactics so that women can apply them right away in whatever they are doing right now. So this is a little bit of what we do. We have newsletters, we have partners. I'm in the partners team right now, so we look for sponsors that help us create these events, or help us pay for speakers. Or the idea is, how do we really make an emphasis on checking what skills or what are our community needing in order for them to close these gaps that we have detected that girls in tech need to go to the next level.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the masterclass idea, and the imposter syndrome thing. Do you have a recording? I'd love to hear about that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we can all relate. Yeah.
Yeah, we can all relate. Um, so we don't want to take much of your time. We have a couple of minutes left for this interview, but I just want to ask if you have some final advice for younger girls getting into the industry, or girls with a little bit of more experience into it, but still trying to manage their time with all these challenges.
I would say it's gonna sound like a Nike commercial, but it's just do it.
Just do it.
Like it's literally it's crazy how uh, we have so much on our mind. We overthink everything, and that overthinking leads us to feeling that we're not enough, that we are bad, that we're just not there, you know. But the fact that you try, it gives you, it takes you to a different level. It doesn't matter if you don't get what you want, but the fact that you try, it's gonna take you into learnings. It's gonna make you learn. It's gonna your experience is gonna grow. You know, like if, for example, if you want to apply for a job, go apply for the job. It doesn't matter. When you apply, you're learning how to, I don't know, to create a resume. When you apply, you are, you know, you're feeling empowered to try for this position. If you don't get it, it's okay, but you already try. You already learn what to do, what not to do. You learn. You at least, I think you're thinking of, okay, maybe I need this, maybe. So your conscious is growing. Your learning are growing. So if you don't try, you're never gonna know. The no, you already have it. The negative answer, you already have it. So if
Mm.
you at least try, doesn't matter what is it, a class, speak up in the thing that I gave, the example that I gave, asking a question in a meeting. The fact that you ask the question, that's a little bit, and the next time you'll do better, you know. And
Yeah.
if it didn't work out, you learn. And I think that's one of the first advice I would give. And the second one is ask for help. I think that's one of the major advice I could give, and something that has helped me a lot. um, People like to help. Like people, if you ask someone, hey, can you help me with this, I think the chances that you're gonna get help are higher than the rejection one.
I
Obviously, if
agree.
you ask help
Of
for
course.
the president, then the chances are very, very low, right? But we have, so like, we how many people do we have in the world, you know? Like,
Mm.
what what what
Mm.
was the what took you to send me an email in LinkedIn? Like, one
Yeah.
minute, 2 minutes, and now we're having this conversation, and we are all learning something new.
Yeah.
We
So
just
it
did
doesn't
it.
matter.
Yeah.
Exactly, we
Mhm.
did it. And if I said no, maybe you send the email to other three women, and the other three women said yes, you know. So it's a matter of just trying and trying and trying, and something will come. If what you wanted is not coming, at least you learn something. And
Yeah.
this learning, maybe you will not use it for the next email, but you will use it, I don't know, for an event, or for professional, or for a class, or for anything. So I think it's a matter of being proactive and just do it.
That's very
Yeah.
valuable advice.
Yeah. Just do it, and being resourceful. I mean, it's the thing with our podcast. Like me and Ban, we're always thinking like, are people gonna like it? I mean, what if we sound silly, whatever? But we just did it, and as you said, like, even like we're probably gonna learn a lot from it. If not now, maybe in the future. So